All right. So I guess we will get started. So if you'd like, finding a comfortable position on your mat, whatever feels good for you tonight. You can either be sitting or maybe you're lying down, whatever the body's calling for. And as you begin to settle, I invite you to either close the eyes or nice gaze at the tip of the nose. And then we begin by doing a little scan of the body just to check in, beginning at the crown of the head, working our way down to the forehead, the eyebrow, the eyes, the cheeks, the ear, the nose, lips, and chin, softening and relaxing. And we go down to our shoulders, coming down our arms, the biceps and triceps, the elbows and forearms, the wrists, hands and fingers, letting go. Tension comes back up to the collarbone area as we work our way down to the chest, and then the mid stomach, and then to the belly button, and into the hips. Back up to the top, just this time to the back of the body here, the back of the neck, just checking in, the upper part of the spine, the mid spine, and the lower spine. And finally, the glutes, all relaxing. Working our way through our thighs and our hamstrings, our knees, our shins, calf muscles, the ankles, the feet, and the toes, all relaxed. And then again, we now turn our attention to the prana or the breath. And without changing anything, just observe how you're breathing tonight. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to work our way through some deep belly breathing. So as you inhale through the nose, the air travels down the lungs into that lower belly. That lower belly comes out like a balloon. And then we bring that navel back towards the spine, emptying. And inhale, belly comes out. Exhale, navel towards spine. Working through a few of these breaths at your own pace. And on your next exhale, we can release. We're just going to work through the yogic breath or the Dirga Pranayama, which is a three-part breath. So as we inhale, we go to that lower belly one more time. That belly button comes out. And once that is filled up, we move to the mid parts, the chest and the lungs. And then finally all the way up into the upper lungs and collarbone. And then as we release, we exhale, almost like dipping a glass of water out from the top down, emptying. Inhale, belly, mid chest, upper chest, and then emptying. Working through two of these at your own pace. And then whenever you're finished, you can return to that normal breath and just check in with the body and the mind. Eyes closed or soft gaze at the tip of the nose, we can inhale and bring our arms up overhead, reaching for the sky. And then we take our right arm down, and that left arm comes across as we gaze up towards that elbow, making sure that left glute is still into the mat. And inhale, both hands come back up overhead, left arm down, right arm across, gaze up at the ceiling or the sky. And inhale, both hands come up overhead, right hand to left knee. Lengthen the crown towards the sky. As we exhale, we lead with the chest and we twist, gazing over that back shoulder. Every inhale, lengthen. Every exhale, twisting. On the next inhale, both hands come back up overhead. We put that left hand to right knee, right arm back like a kickstand. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, leading with the chest, twisting, gazing over the back shoulder. On the next inhale, both hands come up, reaching towards the sky here. We hold the palms so that they're facing forward here. We just paint the wall in front of us, letting the hands fall down wherever they land. And then we tuck the chin in slightly here and just begin to rock slightly back and forth here on the hips, just loosening everything up. As we slow that movement down, we can walk the hands back towards the body here. And then we elongate through the spine and the crown of the head. We're going to dip that right ear to right shoulder here. And then you're going to gaze down at that right thigh area, just giving a stretch into that neck. And then we bring the chin down towards the chest and we bring that left ear to left shoulder. We bring that gaze down to that left thigh. Remembering to breathe. Chin comes towards the chest. We bring right ear to right shoulder. And then we bring the chin towards our chest, left ear to left shoulder. And then back down towards the ground. Just making half circles here at your own pace. And if you'd like, you can work yourself into full circles, nice and slow. And remember what you do in one direction, you can pause and go in the opposite direction. As we begin to slow that down, The gaze comes back towards the horizon here. We take our left hand and we bring it straight out, palm facing up. Take our right hand and we just pull those fingers down towards the earth, stretching out the wrist, elongating that forearm. And then we release and we bring the palm like you're waving at somebody. And then we pull the fingers back this way, going towards that forearm here. And then we release and shake it out. Take the right arm, palm facing forward here, nice and straight. We bring our left hand and we scrub those fingers and pull them down towards the earth. And then we release and face the palm like you're waving at somebody. And we pull the fingers back towards the top of the arm. And then we release and shake. And then we bring our arms up like this so the elbows are kind of pinching the body, the hands are facing forward, and we just begin to flick our fingers 10 times. And shake it out. And then 10 more. And shake it out. Next thing we do is we bring our arms out. The palms can face down this time, and we just start waving like we're flapping our wings here, doing some flying. And then you can begin working into some small circles in one direction. As you make those circles bigger, you can slow that down and reverse. So starting out with big circles here, and then getting smaller and smaller and smaller until we're flapping our wings again. And then we bring the hands to our thighs here. We just bring the shoulders up towards the ears and let them fall. Bring them up to the ears and then let them fall. And hopefully we're nice and limber now. So we're going to get onto our knees into a tabletop position. I always recommend bringing the blanket around the halfway point of the mat because we're going to be on our knees for a little bit. This just helps protect the knees. If you have any blocks or any props, they can remain at the top of the mat just so that they're there in case we need them. And we're going to meet into that tabletop position. So again, just focusing on the fingers first. We want to make sure that the fingers are spread apart here. And then we check in to make sure the wrists, elbows, and shoulders are in line. And we just have a quick gaze behind, noticing that our knees and hips are in line. And then whenever we're ready, we can begin working through some cat-cow. So on the inhale, the belly dips down, the tailbone kicks up, and the gaze comes forward. And then on the exhale, you're pushing the mat away with the hands. You're rounding the spine, bringing the gaze towards the navel. Inhale, belly dips, tailbone kicks. Exhaling, rounding. Working through a few of these cat-cows at your own pace. Matching movement to breath. One last round here. And whenever you're ready, we can meet back in that neutral tabletop. We put the weight into that left hand. We bring that right arm all the way up to the sky here. And then we feed that arm to the bottom of that left hand here. And then we just bring that right temple down. So doing a little bit of a twist stretch here. Just working on those shoulders ever so slightly. Putting the weight back into that left hand. We push ourselves up. We bring that right arm across back towards the sky. And then this time we're going to flip it behind the small of our back and just push into that left arm a little bit more so we open up that chest. We could take that hand that's at the small of the back now, just cartwheel it down to meet the other hand. Maybe a wag of the tail here, right and left would feel good to reset the spine. And we slow that down and we begin to put the weight into that right hand. That left arm comes all the way up to the sky. And then we feed that top arm all the way through on the mat here so that left temple comes down. And we just settle in for a minute here, coming back to that breath. Putting weight back into that right hand, we lift up, we take that bottom arm, the left arm all the way across, reaching it towards the sky. And then we flip the hand so the back of the hand is on the small of the back. We press into that right arm just ever so slightly so that we're opening that chest just a little bit more here. And then we can take that top arm, cartwheel it down to meet the other arm here. Again, maybe a wag of the tail or a quick cat-cow just to reset the spine would feel really nice. And then as we come back to a normal tabletop here, we're going to take that right leg long behind us so that it's off the mat. The toes are facing towards the mat here. And then we're going to bend that leg. And then we're going to splay that knee out to the right side here. And then we're going to take that knee and just bring it down to meet the other knee on the blanket here. And then we lift up, just getting into the hips, just doing leg lifts here. And then the next time it comes back towards the top of the kind of the mat here, you're going to draw some circles with the knee. So in one direction, just taking your knee and just kind of rotate that hip in circular motion. And then in the opposite direction. And we can begin to slow that down. We kick that leg back out long behind us again. We kind of clench that core together so we've got a nice, strong, stable ground here. And then we take that left hand just to the top of the mat. And then we flip that hand like we're shaking somebody's hand in front of us for 4, 3, 2, 1. That left hand comes down. We kick that back leg all the way over to the left side so the toes come down off the mat. And we gaze over that left shoulder into one of my favorite. Gaze comes towards the fingertips. We come on that back tiptoe and we just bring that leg all the way to the right side. The toes face forward here. And this is just a good time to maybe explore around. Maybe you can sit back on that back heel, or maybe you do a cat-cow here. Or what I like to do is just kind of sway back, forward and backwards here, just to loosen up the inner thigh and the back. And then we begin to slow that down. And we're going to build ourselves up here. So make a fist with your left hand and then your right hand. And then we take our left hand and place it on the left hip and push up with our right hand. We're in this open gate pose here. So that right leg is long, the toes are still facing forward. We just check in to make sure everything's kind of in line here. And then we can inhale, those arms come up overhead. That right arm comes down on that long leg, and then the left arm comes across the body as we gaze up at that elbow, stretching those intercostal muscles in the inner part of the armpit here on the left side. And inhale brings both hands up overhead here. Pretend that you're reaching for your favorite fruit in the sky here. Just one hand up, one hand down. Beautiful. And then the hands can come to heart center. And then we taking that right leg and we're just going to bring it to the center of the mat here. And this is where I reach for my blocks if I have them. If not, you can always just place both hands on your thigh here. What you want is to have the knee and ankle in line here. Almost like an, and then if you have those blocks, you just frame that front foot and kind of push yourself up so that the chest is nice and open. The gaze comes towards the horizon. And then you can build yourself up on your thighs. And then finally, we can inhale and take both arms up over sky here. Now, grab the hands here and almost just put the big pointer fingers together here. And then you Dip the head back and you bring those fingers a little bit behind you here. And then you come forward. And then we dip back ever so slightly here. And then we can bring the hands to heart center. We can reach for those blocks. We bring the blocks closer towards our body here, our hips. We straighten out that front leg. So the front leg's now straight. Just make sure you have a micro bend in that knee. And we begin to wave our feet at one another. Just getting into the back of the hamstring, noticing the different muscle connective tissues here. And then we begin to gas pedal so the foot can come down in the center and then over to the right, center and left. And then the next time it comes to center, you can flip the toes back up towards the sky. I'm just going to check in here. You want to push up on those blocks. So again, you have that nice chest. The gaze is looking towards the front and the horizon. And what we're going to do is Janu Shirshasana, where we're going to bring the chin towards our knee here. So you're just going to forward fold here until you feel a stretch. And then when you feel that stretch, you're going to tuck the head and the chin back in towards the chest here, and then just settle in. Again, if you find that this is an easy pose for you, you can scissor the hips so the top hip comes back and the bottom hip comes forward. You're going to feel a more engaged back of the leg here, almost into the knee joint. And then we begin to slow that down, and the front foot comes down. We bend in that front leg. The blocks come up to the top of the mat. We put our left and right hand on the inside of that right leg. And then we put the weight into that left hand. We bring that right arm all the way up to the sky into a revolve twist. And then we take that top hand, flip the palm so the back of the hand is now at the small of the back. We press into that left hand, just opening up the chest ever so slightly. We could take that top hand and cartwheel it back down on the inside of that foot. We could take that right foot and just bring it to the edge of the mat. And then we tilt on the edge of that right foot, and we could take our right hand to that right thigh and just press away here. We're in our kind of dragon or lizard pose, whatever you'd like to call it now. If you'd like, you can use any prop that you have to build the ground up and come down to your forearms, or you can stay exactly where you are. It's whatever the body's craving right now. If you can bring the gaze forward, or you have them down looking at the blocks. Great quote by Zig Ziglar here. The more you are grateful for what you have, the more you will have to be grateful for. Whenever you're ready, you can get back down on that foot and remove those props that you might be using. Coming back up, just so that your hand's on the inside of that foot. And then you can take that right leg back just to come on the blanket here. You can readjust the hand so you're back in tabletop. A quick cat-cow here will feel nice. And then we come back to neutral tabletop. We take the knees at mat distance apart. We have the big toes touch, and then we sit directly back, almost on those heels. We bring the forehead down to the mat, and the arms come out straight and long here into our child's pose. A pose of surrender. Any props that you'd like here? Maybe it's under the forehead or on the next inhale, the gaze comes towards the hands. We take our right hand off the mat and bring that left hand to touch the back of that right hand. And then we bring our forehead back down and we check in that that left hip isn't popping too far up. You're going to feel a nice stretch in that. Again, kind of the back of the shoulder into the armpit and the rib cage of that left side. Remembering to breathe. On the next inhale, gaze comes towards the hands. We walk hands through center, left hand off the mat, right hand to touch the back of that. And then we bring the forehead back down. And we just check in that right hip is still working towards the mat. Gaze comes towards our hands. We walk the hands through center here, and then we just begin to make our way back to a tabletop. We readjust the hands and the knees, just making sure everything's in alignment here. And then we take that left leg now long out behind us, the toes facing down towards the ground. We bend that leg. We bring the knee kind of in towards the midline here, and then we bring that knee out to the side, splaying it out. So bringing the knee up and down. We call this the fire hydrants. And then the next time we bring it to the top here, we're going to start drawing circles with our knee in one direction, just opening up that hip. And then in opposite directions. Got some clipping, clapping of the hip. And then we slow that down. We engage the core. That left leg comes back out straight and long again. The toes are facing down towards the mat. Core is engaged. We take our right hand to the top of the mat, and maybe that's good enough. Or maybe you flip the hand like you're shaking somebody's hand in front of you for 4, 3, 2, 1. The hand comes down. That left leg comes all the way over to the right side. The toes come down. We put weight into that left hand, and we gaze over our right shoulder to see if we can say hello to our toes. The more you are grateful for what you have, the more you will have to be grateful for. One last breath here. Gaze comes back towards the hands. We come on that back tippy toe, and we bring that left leg all the way across so that the toes are facing forward, the foot's flat on the ground here. And then we can either do that cat-cow, we can sit back on the heel, or we can rock back and forth, whatever feels good for you. And then we begin to slow the movement, and we build ourselves up. So making fists with the right and left hand here. We this time take the right hand on our right hip. We push up with that left hand, and then we just check in to make sure the ankle, knee, and hip are in line. We can inhale, bring those arms up overhead. Left arm comes down, right arm across the body, gaze at the sky. And inhale brings both hands up overhead here. We're going to bring the hands directly behind us. We're going to clasp the hands together, and then we're going to pull those hands away from us. The shoulder blades are going to kiss, and then we're going to bring the gaze slightly towards the sky. Beautiful hearts open here. Nice deep inhale. Open your mouth, sigh it out, let something go. One more of those. Gaze comes towards the horizon. We take the hands out in front of us. We bring maybe the hands to that left leg. We bring the left leg to the center point of our mat. We reach for the blocks if we have them, just to frame that front foot. And we notice that the knee and ankle are in line here. Press up on those blocks so the chest is nice and open. Again, no blocks. You can always be on the thigh here. Whenever you're ready, we can build ourselves up. So we put hands on thighs. And then we can inhale, both arms come up overhead, reaching towards the moon tonight. The arms come out wide, palms facing up here. Just imagine we have 2 glasses of water, trying not to spill. And then we flip the palms just slightly forward here. And then we give ourselves a hug. So the right arm comes on top, left arm on the bottom. Say something kind to yourself right now. Arms come back out wide. Reversing that, so the left arm on top, right arm on the bottom. Kind words, beautiful thoughts. Arms come back out wide here, and then we just reach for those blocks. We bring the blocks back towards us so that that front leg comes out nice and straight here. Again, if you don't have the blocks, you can always place just on the top thigh, close to that hip area, just to make sure that everything is nice and straight and in alignment. We can begin to wave the feet at one another. And then we begin to gas pedal, feet from right to left in the center. Next time it comes through center, we can flip those toes back towards the sky. We check in, make sure that left leg is nice and straight. Got a little micro bend in it. We press up on those blocks or at our thigh here. The gaze comes out towards the horizon. Then we bring that chin down towards our knee. We can tuck that chin now in towards the chest when we feel a stretch. And we settle into the hamstring stretch. Two more rounds of breath here. And then when you're ready, front foot can come down. We can bend back into that knee. The blocks can come off to the top of the mat if you have them. And then we have the left and right hand on the inside of that left leg. We put the weight into that right hand. We bring that left arm all the way up to the sky here into a revolt twist. And then we flip the palm, bring it all the way to the small of our back so that the back of the hand is at the small of the back. We press into that right arm to open up the chest. Get that back hand and cartwheel it back down to the inside of that left foot. We bring that left foot to the side of the mat and we tip on the edge of it. We settle the hands back down. The gaze can be either towards the front or towards the top of the mat. And then if you settle to your forearms the last time, feel free to try it on this side as well, maybe down on blocks, or you don't even need the blocks, or you're just happy hanging out with your arms straight here, whatever feels good for you tonight. Remembering to breathe. One last breath here. Slowly start to build yourself back up and come back down on that foot. Resettle the hands, and then you just bring that left leg back to the blanket. We just get to a tabletop position here for a brief second, maybe a quick cat-cow or a wag of the tail. And then we come back into that neutral tabletop. And we tuck our toes and we take our hands about a palm print forward here. And then we lift our hips up towards the sky all the way up. Imagining somebody's got a belt around our hips. It's okay to have the knees bent here into our downward facing dog. The gaze is at our navel here. And then feel free to pedal out the feet here. And we can slow that down. The gaze is going to come towards the hands here. We're going to lift up that back leg so that the toes, back right leg, the toes are going to be facing down towards the ground here. And then we're going to bring the right knee to right wrist. And we're going to drop that kind of shin and the knee down at the right wrist area. That back leg, we're going to sit back in a little bit. We're going to bring the knee down and untuck the toes. And then we're going to press up into our pigeon. That should feel pretty nice. Now, with any pigeon, if you have any props, maybe you want them under the right hip here. Now, a resting pigeon, you can use a bolster, blocks, or your forearms. We're just going to make our way down, if you'd like, so that the head is resting on something, and could be the forearm, could be a block. Then you settle into that pose. When I first started with yoga, this was a very challenging pose. I did not like it, but the benefits of this pose are very, very, very endless. So I enjoyed to like it. One more round of breath here. And then you can slowly start building yourself up. If you had a block under that hip, you can take that up to the top of the mat. And then we're just back in that pigeon, the crown of the head, lifting up here. And then we're going to just sit on that right glute. And then we're going to bring that back leg. We're going to swing it all the way around. This is really challenging for me. And then we're going to crisscross it over on top of that right leg. So basically, both knees are almost on top of each other here. And then you're going to reach for the top of your feet with your hands and then just elongate the spine up towards the sky here. Now, we're hands on feet. I love this. We could give a nice massage to the inside of that arch as well. Should feel nice. And then as we slow that down, again, elongate through the crown of the head. We're going to take the hands here. We're going to clasp the hands together. We're going to bend the elbows. We're going to bring the forearms together. And then we're going to lift the elbows up slightly so that we get a nice stretch in the back part of that upper back and the shoulder area. Now, this could be good enough. If you'd like to take this a little further, you can lift up ever so slightly and then begin to hinge forward. Nice and straight spine here until you feel a stretch into the back or the back of the glute. And then you just slow down and then lift back up. One more of those. Lifting the elbows up, hinging slightly forward here. And then sitting up tall. We can release those hands, just shake them out. We're going to swing that back leg and come back into a tabletop position here. And again, I like to wag my tail, loosen up those hips. We're going to tuck our toes again. We're going to bring our hands about a palm print forward. We're going to lift up those hips towards the sky into our downward facing dog here, just for a brief second. You can lift that back left leg up. The toes are facing down towards the ground. The gaze comes in between those hands. We bend that back leg. We bring the left knee to the left wrist, and then we drop the leg down. And then we begin to bring that back knee down, untuck the toes, and push up. Now, another thing that might feel good here to readjust this pigeon pose is you could tuck the back toes always, lift the back leg up, and then push backwards until you feel the straightening of the leg, and then you straighten the leg out and untuck the toes, and you'll feel yourself probably elongating a little bit more. Now, if this felt good on the other side, you can take that block to that left hip, and then you can slowly build yourself down to the resting pigeon. So again, forehead comes down towards the mat, a block, and then just begin to settle in. Few more breaths here. Nice deep inhales. Nice smooth long exhales. And then when you're ready, you can take the blocks and place them at the top of the mat. Your hands come down in front of you as you push up into that king pigeon. So the crown of the head is facing towards the sky. And then we sit down onto that left glute. We bring that back leg all the way across here to the front. And then we crisscross the legs on top of one another. So the left leg is on top of the right leg here. Both knees are almost on top of each other. If you can't get that, that's not a problem at all. We reach down for the top of those feet. We elongate through the spine here. Called this open faced cow pose. Again, you can always give your foot massage. It's always nice to do here. Another challenge that you could try is you can actually put each finger in between each of your toes here, almost like you're holding somebody's hand inside of those toes. Now, I had a yoga instructor tell me to do this, and he said, Scott, I used to do this all the time when I was watching TV or a movie, and it's so good for the muscles of the feet. It helps out to spread muscles. We have thousands of little bones and muscles in our feet. Again, it does get easier if you keep practicing. Again, you can take those fingers out now. We are going to reach for those hands. We're going to clasp the hands, maybe the different thumb on top here. We're going to bring the forearms together. We're going to lift those elbows up. And then if you'd like, with a nice straight spine, just hinge slightly forward until you feel a little stretch, and then you stop. And then we sit back up straight. Make sure those forearms are touching. We lift the elbows up one more time, and then we hinge forward. And then we sit back up and we can take those hands out, shake them out for a second here. And then we're going to uncross the legs. We're going to come into a brief tabletop just for a second here. Again, cat cow, just to reset everything. And then we're in a neutral tabletop. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take our right leg out long and straight. The toes are on the ground and the ball of the foot is on the ground. We're going to remove that blanket to the right side if we can. We're going to lift up that left leg. We're going to come into plank pose just for a second. So what this looks like is you've got the balls of the foot and the toes facing forward. You're pressing outside of those heels. Try not to dump the hips too far down. And then whenever you're ready, the knees can come down. You can untuck the toes and the tops of the feet come down. And then we just come down towards our chest here. And then we build a nice pillow with our hands to place our head on. And then just taking a moment to settle here. Great quote by Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. On the next inhale, you're going to bend those arms so that the forearms are flat on the ground. The elbows are around the chest, kind of pinching in towards the chest. The fingers are spread out nice and wide here. You're going to engage the core. And if you have a kind of a sore lower back, you want to clench those glutes together as you push up. The gaze comes forward here into our Sphinx pose. And then we can release down, making the pillow for our head. We can bend those legs here and then just tick-tock the hips from right to left. As we slow that down, the legs can come out straight and long here. We're going to bend that right knee and place it on the side of the mat. Hopefully your blanket's on the right side here. You want your knee and hip in line, and then your knee and ankle. And then you're going to flex that bottom foot. We call this half frog. Once you've got that kind of L shape with your leg, you can settle your head back down. And if you wanted to try to make the stretch a little more, you can rotate the pelvic bone down towards the mat here, and you'll find a bit of a deeper stretch. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. One last breath here. And whenever you're ready, you can straighten out that right leg here so that's long, like the left leg on the mat. We're going to take our right arm out like a T so that the palm of the hand is facing towards the ground here. Now, if you have any shoulder issues, I would say this is probably as far as you're going to go. If you'd like to try it a bit further, you can take that top hand and just place it in front of the gaze and then push yourself up so that you roll onto the right leg. And then you can bring your temple back down here. Both legs are on top of each other. Should feel pretty good. Any pain, please get out of it. Now, if you wanted to take this further, you could take that top leg, lift it up, bend it, and then place the foot down on the ground behind that long legged knee. And then we take that top hand and then we could flip it around to the small of the back here, chest nice and open. If you took that top hand to the small of the back, you can now cartwheel it back to the front of the gaze. If your top foot is still on the ground, you could lift it up and then just place it on top of the other leg. So both legs are like a log now. And then we press down, chin comes down, and we roll onto our stomachs. We make the pillow for our head. We bend those legs here. And then with our feet, we just draw circles in one direction and then in the opposite direction. We can let those legs come out long, lift up for a second, and then your best yogic stealth move, you can grab that blanket and just bring it over to the left side here. And then we place the arms flat on the mat here, elbows in towards the chest, our fingertips are spread. We're going to do another Sphinx pose. So again, we kind of engage the core, we clench the glutes, and then we press up. See if you can get a little bit higher. Maybe the belly button comes off the mat. The gaze is still forward here. And then we come back down, making a pillow for our heads. Bend those legs, tick tock. And then the knees come back out long, so the legs come back out long. We bend that left leg. Left knee is on that blanket, conveniently located. We want to make that L shape for that leg. Bottom foot is flexed. Bring our head back down towards our pillow. And again, if you wanted to make this a little bit more stretchy, you can rotate those hips towards the mat and press away that left leg ever so slightly into our half frog. One more round of breath here. And whenever you're ready, you can take that left leg out long to meet the right. Settle down just for 1 minute here, just to take a breath. Then we take that left arm like a T so that the hand is on the ground. We're going to take that right hand and place it around the right chest area. We're going to bring our left temple on the ground and we're going to push up onto that shoulder, and then both legs are on top of each other here. Maybe that's enough tonight. Or you could take that top leg and bend it and place it on the mat down behind that long leg. And then maybe you take that top hand and flip it around to the small of the back. If you took that top hand to the small of the back, you can now bring it back down towards the gaze. That top leg you can straighten back out and place on top of the bottom leg. And then you roll back down onto your chest here. Just make that pillow one more time with the hands. And then bend the legs. And if you wanted to make circles or tick-tocks, whatever feels good for you here. Just releasing any tension that we have left in that lower spine. We slow that down. The legs come out long. We bend the hands, we place the hands around the chest area here, and then we just begin to push up into a tabletop. We're only here for a brief second. We're gonna come down on one hip. We're gonna bring both legs all the way to the front in our best yogic mermaid style. We're gonna reach for one of those blocks. If you have them, we're gonna place it to the side of the mat. Now, tonight we're going to bring the soles of the feet together just in front of you here. Now, the closer the heels and the feet come in, the deeper the stretch here in our butterfly pose. The whole idea is you want to elongate that spine. Imagine somebody's lifting up from the crown of the head and then just touching the tops of the feet here. Crown of the head is still long. And then you could begin to just bring that chin towards the chest ever so slightly. And if you'd like, you can flutter your wings nice and slowly, just up and down. And the gaze comes back towards the horizon. We let the kind of hands come up the side of the legs and we just reach for those knees and close the knees like a book here. And then we see that our feet are flat on the floor, around hip distance apart. We're going to take our hands behind us. It doesn't matter which direction the fingers face. And then we just tuck our legs from right to left. And then when next time we come through center here, just kind of lift up through the crown of the head. We bring both hands like we're holding 2 cups of water to the side here. And again, if we wanted to get one last core strengthening exercise here, you can lift up one leg and then bring it down and lift up the other leg and bring it down. And now, again, elongating through the spine here, lifting up both legs, dipping back ever so slightly, crown of the head reaching towards the sky, palms flipped up here. You're going to feel that. Straighten out the legs as much as you can, and then just slowly come down right at a time until you're lying flat on your back. And once we get to the back, I always say, finally, the pose that I'm good at. And then whenever you're ready, you can bend the knees. Just grab the knees and pull them in towards the chest. So you're almost in a tight little ball here. And then it should feel really nice to just slide back and forth on the tailbone here, just nice and slow. It's like a back massage. Or you can take the knees together and make circles in one direction. That also feels nice. It's also kind of a massage. And then you can always do the opposite direction. And then we slow that down. We're going to keep the right knee in. We're going to bring that left leg out long, back down towards the mat. We're going to grab that right knee and just bring it in towards the chest and then angle it out toward the armpit a bit here. Now, right hand, the one that's kind of probably on the knee, you're going to take out like a T, and then you're going to reach over with that left hand and just pull that knee over to the left side. So we're going into a twist here. Probably not going to get down to the ground. If it does, good. If not, you can always take that foot and just place it, the toes down on the ground so that you got some stability. Both arms can come out like a T, and then we bring the gaze over the right shoulder here. Nice full supine twist. Bringing out whatever's left in that spine. Nice inhales and exhales here. Gaze comes back up towards the horizon. We can guide that knee just across to the top of the body, and then we're just going to switch out. So the right leg's going to come out long. We're going to bend that left leg. We're going to reach for that knee and pull it in towards the chest, and then out towards the side armpit area. That right leg is, or sorry, right hand is going to come on the knee. That left arm is going to come out long like a T. Then we're going to guide that knee all the way over to the right side. And again, I drop just my tippy toes down here, so it's some stability. And then I gaze over that right fingertip. Gaze comes back up to the ceiling. We can bring that left top leg across here and just bring it out long for 1 second. Maybe you bounce the legs up and down here. And then we're going to bend into those legs again so that the feet are flat on the ground. You're going to take your hands and place them on the mat. So the forearms and the hands are down on the mat. And then you're going to bring those heels towards the middle fingers here. So again, the knees are bent. They're about hip distance apart. You can almost touch your heels with your fingertips. You're going to place your hands flat, press into them a little bit, and then you're going to rotate the hips slightly up so you take the curvature out of the small of your back. And then whenever you're ready, you can lift those hips up towards the sky into our bridge pose. Try to bring the legs together. Imagine there's a block that you're squeezing the thighs together. Don't let the legs spray out here. And then we slowly come down one vertebrae at a time. And we got you to bring that block here. If you have a block, this is a good time. If you don't have a block, you can just go into another bridge pose. But if you have that block, we're just going to come into that bridge pose, but we're going to bring the block underneath our sacrum here. So that kind of flat part of the back, you're going to feel that pressure release and you're going to go, ah. Now, if you're in your normal bridge, you can come down one vertebrae at a time. And again, if you're on that block, you can start bending the knees and then kicking the feet out to the sky. So the feet are pointing up towards the ceiling. If you didn't have a block, you can actually take your hands and just kind of cup the glutes here, and then you could bend the knees and then kick the legs up, and then you can use the kind of gravity from your arms to just pull the legs back ever so slightly here. Call this legs up the wall. And while you're up in this legs up the wall, feel free to play around here. Especially if you have that block, it's going to feel good to maybe take the legs out wide or crisscross them, or just do some fun stuff. If you don't have that option because you're on the ground, you can always find a wall to help you with this as well. But this pose is an amazing pose to circulate oxygenated blood and great for insomnia and stress. And whenever you're done playing, you can slowly bend the knees. One leg can come down at a time. If you didn't have that block, the legs just come back down and you can bring the legs out long for a second here. And then whenever you're ready, you can do whatever pose you'd like to do before you come to our Shavasana or final resting pose. Maybe it's another bringing the knees in towards the chest and bringing the nose towards the knees into a little ball here. Or maybe you do a happy baby where you grab the outsides of the feet with the hands. Whatever feels good here. And then once you've finished exploring, you can work your way into our final resting pose, the Shavasana, using any props that you would like, bolster or blocks under the legs or blanket under the head. And once you settle in, I want you to take a nice deep inhale, open your mouth side out, let go of control of the breath. If any thoughts arise, let them float away like a cloud in the sky. Slowly and mindfully coming back towards the mat and the space, deepening the breath, letting any small movements, be it's the neck from side to side or the wiggling of the toes and ankles, wrists and fingers. Maybe you reach your arms up overhead like a great big morning stretch. And whenever you're ready, making your way to your favorite side into the fetal position of where it all began. And when you get to the fetal position, I invite you to take a moment to say something kind and loving towards yourself. If you struggle to do this, imagine something you'd say to a friend or a loved one. The Buddha said, every morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most. Slowly making your way to a seated position, elongating through that spine so the crown of the head is reaching towards the moon. Arms are going to come out to our side as we inhale. We bring the hands up overhead. Hands meet. We exhale, bringing the hands down to heart center into prayer pose. Slight bow of the head. Thank you so much for allowing me to share these gifts of yoga with you. I'm so grateful that you decided to show up tonight to your mat. The light in me bows to the light in each and every one of you. Namaste.